What's going on, guys? It's your channel TFD bringing you the latest breaking news. It looks like Paige Bueckers has unfortunately suffered a serious injury in her recent game. This is one that has everyone talking, and for this update, we're taking a trip up to Connecticut to break it all down. Let's dive right into it. Let's get it. Let's go.
Now, let me tell you guys, this one was absolutely shocking. The number 7 ranked Connecticut Huskies faced off against Villanova, and while they secured an 83-52 victory, the big story wasn't the score. It was Paige Bueckers. She suffered a tough injury during the game, and here's where it gets wild. Some people are speculating she might be tanking her season because she doesn't want to end up in Dallas. But let me be clear, I don't believe that for a second. From everything we've seen, this looks like a gruesome injury, plain and simple. And trust me, we've got the footage to show exactly what went down. Let's take a closer look.
Roll footage. This is the footage. Right here got her leg trampled. They're on that play. Let's take a look at it one more time. And this is in slow motion. Boom. Yeah.
Whoa. That was not good. That was Bosco diving for the ball and rolling up Bueckers.
The number 7 ranked UConn Huskies women's basketball team improved to 13-2 in the 2024-25 NCAA season on Sunday after they defeated the Villanova Wildcats by a score of 83-52 on the road. While the Huskies essentially cruised to an easy win, it might have been the most stressful UConn game of the entire season after what happened to star guard Paige Bueckers. Everyone was just sitting there like, oh, that really just happened. At one point in the third quarter, Bueckers was chasing after a loose ball when a Villanova player dove for the ball and crashed into the side of Bueckers' left leg. The Huskies star and projected number 1 pick of the 2025 WNBA draft rolled awkwardly on the ground and immediately began writhing in pain. She then limped off the court and into the locker room. While this would have been concerning for any player, it was especially so for Bueckers because she tore the ACL in that same left knee back in August 2022, which caused her to miss an entire year of action. Bueckers returned to the bench shortly after and could be seen wiping tears out of her eyes as she sat down. She didn't return to the game. All right, let's dive into this because I'm telling you right now, this is a major situation for UConn as they fight to make their way back to a national championship. I know there's been all kinds of theories flying around about Paige, but let me set the record straight. I'm not here to label her or make assumptions. Sure, there's been talk out there about her not wanting to go to Dallas, but I genuinely don't think this is about tanking her season. What we saw was a serious injury, plain and simple. And right now, we need to lift her up in prayers because, as you all saw in that footage, it looked really, really bad. I don't want to see any of these athletes, these talented women, go down like this. At the end of the day, this is her career. Whatever she decides to do moving forward, she's already cemented her legacy in the game. But for now, we're wishing her a speedy recovery. Now, UConn's head coach, Geno Auriemma, didn't waste any time addressing what happened. He opened up in his post-game press conference to talk about everything that went down with Paige. Let's roll some of that footage right now.
Where's she kind of at?
She just had some ice on it right now, and it's like when I said about AZ, you know, when these freaky things that happen when somebody runs into you, and so like when it was with AZ, it's not the worst thing that we can imagine. So that's great news, you know, considering how awkward it was, you know.
More people start tuning into college basketball than were earlier in the NFL season and so on. For people who are now in the next couple weeks going to see Sarah Strong for the first time, would you tell them what they're going to see?
I just am really kind of I marvel at the composure that she has, the way the game plays so slow for her. That usually doesn't come until much later in your career. she's one of those unique players that when people watch her, they're going to realize, wow, she's a pretty good defender. She's got great hands. Man, she can really catch. Boy, she has great feet. She has great instinct. She shoots threes like she's, like a guard that's been shooting them forever. She finishes around the basket. All the things that you need to be a terrific basketball player, she has those. And there are a lot of kids that have those same things, but they don't have the personality and the maturity to bring them all together. Again, that usually comes later in your career. And the fact that she has that.
We're into January, February, getting ready for March Madness. Do you see that this is continuing, this is sustainable, that there are a lot of really good players out there that are getting more attention, more teams that are turning the sport to where you've probably known it should have been for the last 30 years?
I always thought college women's basketball, I don't know about men's basketball, but I always thought college women's basketball was team driven. That if you were a fan of UConn, you thought UConn was the best team in the country and they should never lose. If there was another game on that didn't involve UConn, you were probably apt to not watch it, because I'm a UConn women's basketball fan. And the switch, the change has happened that people are becoming women's college basketball fans, as opposed to just I follow my team. And that maybe has to do with it's becoming more star driven. So there's more stars. And because there's more stars, there's certainly not more stars than there was. You saw some of my teams, okay? There's not more stars than there were back then, but there's more attention paid to the stars that are out there. It seems like there's a lot more stars. And they seem to come through all the time. So when you come watch them play, you're always like, wow, those guys are really good. So you have a crowd like today, and that didn't happen before. We might have had all those stars, but we didn't have these kind of crowds. We have big crowds, but not everywhere we go like this. And again, I really truly believe it's sustainable because social media won't let it die. And back when those other superstars, those Hall of Famers that I coached, when they played, there wasn't social media. So only the locals had an opportunity to experience that. Now, that picture, that clip is all over the world. And that's made the game, way more widespread than it used to be. And I'm not one of those this should have happened 25 years ago. You missed a lot. You missed Diana Taurasi in her prime. You missed Maya Moore in her prime. Blah, 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 blah. You missed Stewie in her prime. Things happen for a reason, and they happen when they happen. The only thing that would piss you off is if it never happened. But it did happen, and it is happening. And I think it'll continue to happen. There's just so many good teams out there, so many good coaches, that I think if we keep doing our part, it won't go away. If all of a sudden we start, and the thing that worries me the most is if kids start going and playing for 4 different schools in 4 years, I think people would just say, screw it, I'm not watching anymore. They still want to have that connection to their school,
All right, let's get into this because Geno Auriemma had some interesting comments about the growth of basketball, particularly on the women's side. And honestly, it felt like he might have thrown a little shade at Caitlin Clark. If you were paying attention, he mentioned that women's basketball is more team-driven, not individual-driven. He talked about how there were stars back in the day with his teams, but none like what we're seeing now. To me, it sounded like he was implying that one person, Caitlin Clark, can't carry the sport. But let's be real, we all know Caitlin has played a massive role in growing women's basketball to where it is today. Geno can try to spin it however he wants, but the impact Caitlin's had is undeniable. And look, I wish nothing but the best for his player, Paige Bueckers, and hope for a speedy recovery. But let's not pretend like Caitlin hasn't revolutionized the game. Geno talked about people missing the primes of players like Diana Taurasi and Brianna Stewart. But let's be honest, back then, the sport didn't generate the same hype it does today. If those players were so dominant, where was the buzz? And blaming it on the lack of social media? That's weak. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, early LeBron James, and Kobe Bryant didn't have social media in their primes either, but they still dominated headlines and changed their sports. Caitlin Clark brought this wave of attention to women's basketball, and we can't ignore that. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you think Geno's comments were shade, or am I reading too much into it? Hit that notification bell because you know I'll be bringing you the latest. And until next time, shake the haters off. I'm out. Peace.